Yes, we're live. Hi. Happy Wednesday, besties and bosses. I'm a couple minutes later than I usually am. They're still doing the non-forever ongoing construction, and I was just waiting. They had like the jackhammer going. So glad I was on a client call. Just waiting for them to quiet down a little bit, which they have, so that we can have this conversation without a ton of background noise. I'm also wearing the headphones here, so hopefully this will give you all a little bit of better sound. I would love to know how everyone is doing. I'm in such a good mood as always, but I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. I feel like we had like an itch of spring this weekend. The weather was glorious in New York City, and it's kind of like cloudy today and in the 50s. It's still really nice weather, but I'm like bringing out, I was telling one of my clients, I'm bringing out my favorite sweaters that feel a little springy for like their last hurrah before we get into the full weather. So that's what's going on weather-wise here. Let's just readjust. Okay, let's dive into what we're going to talk about today. There we go, I can see me in the groove. I'm also going to share with you before we dive in, I've got a special free offer for you. And on Monday, this upcoming Monday on the podcast, I'm announcing some very big news. So keep your ears on the podcast, some very big news for you, and then a fun free offer for you today. Hi, Laura, nice to have you. Nice to see you. And I should actually check, are we giving something away today? No, we're not. But I do have a fun free giveaway for y'all. So we created a new free coaching session for you called Content Lab Strategy Session. Not that the name is the whole thing, but I think it's helpful to know what the session is all about. I'm just seeing so much after doing so many of Your Marketing Multiplied strategy intensives that I announced a month or two ago, how much people are just really having a challenge with content right now, and just some of the shifts we're seeing in the online space. And this is also what I'm supporting so many of my clients with, as I'm sure many of you know, because we talk about this, I feel like, on every live stream recently. This is what I've been very focused on since about January of last year in my business. There have just been so many shifts in our space in terms of what's really working with content strategy. And what I see for most people is your content is good and it is super valuable. So do not hear this and think like that means I'm suggesting people's content isn't good or valuable, but it's the marketing, it's the strategy aspect of your content that things have just changed in terms of what's connecting with people, what's landing, what's getting noticed, what is allowing you to build the kind of relationships that bring people in through the door, what's allowing you to get paid on repeat. So I've got a free, can't say words, 30-minute strategy session for you. I will drop a link for that below. These are limited. As you know, I run a fully booked one-on-one coaching practice. I have made a vow to myself, I will always make some space on the calendar to offer free sessions, but I got to support my paying clients first and foremost. So if we haven't had a chance to connect before and you want some support with that so that we can audit your strategy and update your content with what's working right now to get you noticed and paid on repeat, take me up on this session. It is completely free. Yes, I will actually coach you on the session. It's not just like a consultation. I will coach you on that. I would love to support you with that. All right, now let's dig into the big part here, and what we're going to talk about today is 3 problems I am coaching my clients to solve to sell out their offers. And I think actually this content strategy, the session is a good example of some of what we're going to talk about. You've been hearing me probably talk quite a bit about your words that sell, your messaging, your positioning, your content, your marketing, how important that is, how much has changed in the online space. I feel like a broken record, probably in the best way possible, because I think people just really need to hear this right now. It is 2024. What worked in 2020 is no longer working. We cannot slap together offers, marketing, sales funnels, any of that and expect it to work the same way. And I don't think this is a bad thing at all, but I do think this means that most business owners who are succeeding and making money are doing some very intentional work to get back to basics and to refine and to update what needs to be updated. And yes, I think your messaging and your marketing, I just wrote an email about this for what I'm sharing that you'll get on Monday, what I'm announcing. One of the things I was saying is, y'all know I love sales. I'm excellent at sales. I think I'm excellent at supporting my clients with sales, but here's the secret about really great sales. I think great sales are sort of like non-sales sales, in that I find my best sales conversations, I'm not selling. I'm selling, but I'm not like convincing anyone of anything. I'm able to have a conversation with them and they're coming to me already knowing a pretty good idea they want to work with me, hire me, right? We're having more a conversation of like, what's the offer? Is it a fit? Because of the messaging, the marketing, the content, the relationship that's been built before we have that sales conversation, which is what we're working on designing in Your Marketing Multiply, that strategy intensive I have. And then on the conversation, for that to be to be effective, right? The sales conversation ends up being much more around the offer and if the offer is a fit for someone or not. And being able to answer those questions as opposed to, are we a fit to work together? Do you want to work with me? Do you trust me, right? Do you feel okay investing through my services? And I think this is the piece that has almost been forgotten in the conversation. I think as we're all talking about, like, we've got to update messaging, we've got to update marketing, that yes, your marketing makes your sales much easier, right? If you have an excellent marketing strategy, if your content is on point, that's why you should take me up on that free call, that does the heavy lifting for you, right? Sales is a very easy conversation where it feels much more lean back. You don't feel like you're convincing someone. And what makes all of that easier, and then what helps you to facilitate those conversations or to have landing pages that are really effective, is being really clear on what your offer is, the value proposition around it, and being able to communicate that, right? That's what informs all of what we're talking about. And so a lot of what I'm supporting clients with right now, my ongoing one-on-one clients who are successful, right? Who are six-figure and multi-six-figure business owners, it's not like they're brand new to business. We're doing a lot of going back to basics and a lot of revamping, refining, updating their offers, either actually changing their offers or the communication around their offer, because that is the nucleus of everything we're talking about here, right? I can give you some snazzy buzzwords, right? We can pull out some good lingo and marketing, right? You can have your marketing do the heavy lifting for you. But if you don't have a solid offer and you don't know how to communicate what is in that solid offer, all the marketing in the world and all the people landing on your sales page or sales call ready to hire you or buy from you isn't going to matter if they don't actually want what it is you're selling, or if your delivery on the back end isn't working for you, because that's going to burn trust and create a problem. We've all seen this. I have people who hire me who are excellent marketers and have a massive audience, but there is just some general changes we need to make to their offer and their communication around their offer. They're having a really hard time selling, even though they have this massive audience. So let me know if this is tracking. I'm also showing that I am frozen on Facebook. Weird. Frozen and drill sounds in the background. I think we're still, let's see. All right. No, I'm working again. Okay, great. I just want to make sure I'm not just on a rant here and you can actually understand what I'm saying. But let me know if this is tracking for you, because I think sometimes we, in the online space, and it's just hard to give all of the context and nuance in any single live stream or a single podcast or single piece of content. But I think sometimes we forget that business is, there is a very holistic approach, and there's all of these different components. And it's very easy to just hear one part and almost to latch onto one part, because that's either the current thing that is the fire that needs to put out, or what's popular to talk about in the online space, or the current challenge to solve, and to miss that there are all these pieces that really fit together that are impacting that. And I think your offer, this sounds so basic, but really I want it to, because these are the basic conversations I'm encouraging clients to get back to and to revisit. Your offer is the nucleus of your business. If we don't have a clear offer, a clear value proposition, and really solid delivery, this is the place we want to go to and really identify. So I'm going to walk through 3 of the problems or challenges or areas I'm looking at with clients around their offers so they can sell their offer out more, and we'll connect to how that also is going to make it so much easier with your messaging, with your content marketing strategy, with your sales overall. Laura says totally tracking and not frozen here. Okay, great. I don't know what's going on my side, but as long as it's not frozen for you, if you put questions or comments, it might just be a lag on my side. All right, so I got 3 of these here. Let's just pull these up, and because I want to make sure that we dive into these. So I want to talk about just the clarity of your offer and how that affects your ability to sell. We're going to talk a little bit about the number 1 adjustments I'm having my clients make so that they're no longer hearing I can't afford it or I need to wait. And this isn't some like tricky NLP sales technique. I have no issue with NLP, but I think sometimes we think there's like some magic sentence that will have us avoid hearing this. I'm going to show you a much easier way that just makes that a objection that no longer is something you're going to hear. And then just some of these problems to address, which is all going to, again, support that messaging, that positioning, that marketing, and that sales process for you. So the first thing here, and I think this is maybe going to sound overly simplistic, but I really want to invite everyone to take a look at their offer and just to check in with, is your offer packaged in a way where you are solving something someone needs to have, something someone needs to address, something someone, like a fire they need to put out, a problem they need to solve, or even a desire they really feel like they need to have right now? Or are you addressing a nice to have? Now, you can sell nice to haves. You can have a very successful business selling nice to haves, but if you're having a hard time selling the amount of spots you need to fill your one-on-one or your group program or your membership or your mastermind, there is a good chance that you might be in an industry that is saturated, where there's a lot of options, right? And when someone has a lot of options, or we're in an economy where people are being a lot more discerning with where they're going to invest their dollars, generally speaking, for most businesses, right? I can't address everyone's business, but for most businesses, people are going to spend their dollars on things they need to have and then wait for the extra money, the extra time, right, for those nice to haves. Now, I think there are things that are nice to have that we can communicate as a need to have, but we really want to look at what is that wrapping paper on your offer, because this is the thing I really see when we can shift your offer to a need to have instead of a nice to have. And this is when people are no longer saying I can't afford it, or I'm going to wait 3 months, or I'm going to wait until later, right? Like, we wait for things when it's a nice to have. We invest in or buy the things right away when it is a need to have, right? When it is something where it's like, I completely understand why this is the solution to my most pressing challenge or problem. Hopefully this is tracking for you. I think this is something on quite a few of the Your Marketing Multiplied intensives. This is one of the things we've been looking at. And yes, we're looking at your messaging, right? Yes, we're looking at your marketing strategy, but this is what I want you to see. Your offer informs that so much, where when I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, well, with all the love in the world, like, tell me why I need this, because I'm seeing this and it's great. It's not that this isn't a nice offer, but nice is only a place in France or in Paris, right? Or not in Paris, in France. It's not necessarily where I'm going to spend my money. I want to know why I need to have this right now. And even if you're speaking to people with disposable income, people with disposable income still want to know, why do I need this? Not why is this just a nice to have? And I say that because one of the things I sometimes hear from clients of mine is they just think they have a bad audience, right? Their audience is bad. They just need to speak to people who have more money. And in small circumstances, right, you might not be speaking to the right person, or there might be something in terms of you've priced yourself out of industry standards, or like there can once in a while be some circumstances where that's the case. But more often than not, when I'm taking a look at what's going on in someone's business, it's less that their audience is bad, or it's less that they just need to find like the super rich people. Like, I think we have it in our mind that people with a ton of money aren't discerning with their dollars. I make pretty good money. I have quite a few peers and clients who make very good money. I would say, if anything, I'm more discerning with my dollars, because I want to put my dollars to good use. I respect my money. It doesn't mean I don't spend it or invest it, and it doesn't mean I don't have disposable income that I can play with a little bit more. But I think the idea that just because someone has more money, they're just willing to pay more, they're always buying expensive things, I think is actually a very I don't want to call anyone out. I just don't think it's the best way to approach your business, or the best strategy, or the best approach for pricing or positioning or the value prop of your offer. In many ways, I think it's actually quite insulting. And I know this is almost like a tangent, but I know nothing makes me more annoyed than if I feel like someone's trying to rip me off, or trying to like get me to pay more because they think I make good money. And some of the companies that I give the most money to, I'll give you an example in a moment, are the companies that treat me with respect and really figure out what I need. And even if it's not the most expensive option, that's where I keep coming back, and I'm a repeat client and customer. I don't really drink that much anymore. I'm 90% sober. As Cheryl Strayed says, I drink as often as I have birthday cake, is kind of the way I say it. So I'll have a drink once in a while. But I used to drink wine pretty regularly, and there's a lovely wine shop around the corner from my apartment, and they really got to know me and my preferences. And every time I would come in, I would kind of describe the type of wine I want and what I needed, right? We could say you don't need wine, but in terms of like the problem I was trying to solve, in terms of I was making this kind of meal and this is what I wanted to fit, or like this was the craving I was having. And what they did such a great job of was two things we're talking about here. One, They didn't just try to point me to what would be nice for me to have. They really tried to listen to what was I trying to address, right? I was trying to solve a problem. The problem was, how can I bring out more flavor in my meal? How can I enjoy this meal? Like, how can I find I'm only gonna have one glass of wine. I want it to be something that really meets my palate. And because I don't drink a lot, even when I was drinking, I get very, very annoyed if I buy a bottle of wine and it's just like kind of crap, because I'm only going to have one glass and I would rather do something that's, meeting my needs. That's a problem to solve. Now, we could say it's a nice and good problem to have, but as a consumer, that's the problem I'm going into that shop to solve. Or I could have had a very different problem, right? I could go into that wine shop and I could be going to a dinner event or like to dinner with friends where I don't know their palate, right? And I'm trying to bring something that's really going to impress them, or that's really going to make them feel like I respect them or I care about them, right? That's a different problem. I have a different need to address there. Or maybe I'm hosting 20 people and I want something that tastes really good, but it's a little bit more affordable and, that's going to like meet multiple palates instead of a really specific palate, right? That's a very different need. And so I'm describing this to you so you can see, like, we could say wine is a nice to have, but actually there are some very specific needs to have. But that wine shop, bringing it back to them, they did such a good job of always getting clear on what did I actually need, and then meeting me with that and finding what addressed that, offering me the bottle of wine that met that need versus that would have met a nice to have. Now, if they didn't pay attention, they didn't listen, right? I could go in saying, I want these things. I have a very specific palate for if I'm gonna have a glass of white wine, for example. And if they weren't really listening, they were just like, we just wanna sell this expensive bottle of wine. Like, we're not even caring about like what's the need to have. Like, this is such a nice thing to have. They could really try to sell me on like why this is such a nice bottle or how like impressive it's gonna be for my friends or like all of the beautiful, amazing things about it. But that would just be a nice to have for me. It wouldn't be a need to have. Again, no one needs wine, but hopefully you're following here. So because of this, right, because they kept meeting my need to have, they got all of my money. There's another great wine shop around the corner, has a great selection, but they didn't do a great job of this, to be quite honest. They're equal distance from my apartment. And in some ways, the other one is more aesthetically pleasing, which matters to me, but they always sold me nice to have, or what we're gonna talk about next, they didn't do a good job of. So all of my money when I was buying wine went to this shop because they sold me need to have. And here's the kicker. They didn't look at me and say, oh, this woman lives in this neighborhood where clearly she's spending a lot of money to live here. She must have money. Let's always sell her the most expensive bottle of wine. No, they met my needs. So often they would downsell me, not upsell me. And I got to tell you, that just made me respect them and keep giving them more and more money. So through that, right, through creating an offer that was a need to have, they got a customer, they got a repeat customer, then they got someone who I would tell everyone, like, that's the place I go to. Right, and they got a really great experience from me. So this is, maybe an example outside of our space, but I think it's just helpful to see even where you're spending your dollars, even if it on surface seems like a nice to have. You probably have a lot of options, right? Inside that shop, fine, wine is a nice to have. There are hundreds of options for me to choose from. The option I'm choosing and spending my money on ends up being the one that is the need to have, not serving the nice to have. And so when you can think about your offer that way, this is going to change so much of how you communicate your offer to someone. Because if you're, here's another example I was talking with someone about. I have someone I was doing an intensive with. They're more like in the parenting coaching space. I'm trying to be mindful of I want to make sure I'm not like giving too many details here. But a lot of their offer, it was positioned around like the internal work and like healing trauma and how that affects your parenting, which, look, as someone who's done a lot of trauma healing, like I get and I so respect, and it is such a needed offer. But what we were talking about is how if you're a parent of a newborn child who hasn't slept and who is exhausted and who's like just trying to figure, or like you have a toddler and you're just trying to figure out how to get them to go to sleep or to stop crying without losing your shit and screaming at them, right? Which might be the result of your nervous system being out of whack or trauma of some kind. Right, you're not thinking about how do I heal my trauma. You're not thinking about how, like, that becomes all a nice to have, even though you and I, as people who are in that space and know these things, know that that's such an essential need. It is a nice to have in the moment in terms of where are you going to spend your dollars. You're going to spend your dollars on someone who might not even be as good a coach or not as good of a program, but who is created an offer that is meeting that need of yours, which is help your child go to sleep or give you the tools to navigate your crying toddler without screaming at them or losing their shit. And so what we were talking about is how can they reposition their offer, so it's not like we're taking the powerful work out of it, but we're repositioning it in a way so the value proposition is really clear to the need to have instead of the nice to have. Hopefully that makes sense there. The other piece with this in terms of the need to have versus the nice to have, actually I'll hold that thought because I want to make sure that that piece is making sense. I don't see any questions, but if you all have questions on the replay, let me know. I'm just seeing, because I had quite a few examples here, but I think those two examples make sense. I'll give you one more example. I have a client who came to me who had a nice to have coaching offer. She was more of a general life coach, and it was very much a nice to have coaching offer. And she was booking a couple of clients here and there. And one of the conversations we had is there was such a lack of clarity around why I need her coaching as a potential client, right? Even when I just asked her like what she did or like why I did this, it was so vague that it was really tough to understand why I would spend money, not because she wasn't a great coach, not because the coaching container wasn't good, but there really wasn't any clarity around what we were doing in the container and why that was something I needed. And that was really the work, a lot of the work we did at the start of working together is getting clear on who needs this, what is the need to have, not the nice to have, and how do we restructure the communication around the offer. I can think of 3 other clients that we've worked on this in the past week, and that's not an exaggeration, where they're great at what they do. Their offer is good, right? People are having a great experience, but when we look at the communication, it's just very vague and I don't even want to say fluffy. It's just a little vague, and it's just a little in the nice to have arena. And it's just not very clear if I'm someone who's brand new to your work or to the industry to understand why do I need to spend money on this, and particularly from you. And one of the things I was talking about that I've talked about with all these different clients is it's just really challenging then when there's a lot of people offering the same thing. If someone else is more clear in their communication around why their offer is a need to have versus a nice to have, or just can even tell you what's in their offer and what you're going to be doing in the offer and what when I say value proposition, it's like, what's the problem we're solving? What's the benefit? How can we clearly articulate that? What's different about you and your offer, right? When someone can really clearly communicate that, that's just the person who's going to get the sale all day, every day, not because they're necessarily better, right? I think our brains can get a little into this comparisonitis or into this place where we start making ourselves wrong. We're like, oh my gosh, I suck, I'm not good enough, especially if you have some enoughness work to do, which many of us do. Like, I'll raise my hand. That's some of the mindset work I often have to do. But I think it's important to see here, in many ways, this can support your mindset, because this has nothing to do with, is your offer actually good? Are you actually good at your work? It's, are we clear on what's inside your offer, how to communicate that clearly, how it's different from others, and why someone needs this. And so this client I'm giving an example of, and I'm being very vague because otherwise I think it could possibly be clear who this client is. This was the one main thing we have focused on. It is wild how this has changed her whole business, because of course this informs her messaging, this informs her marketing strategy, this informs her sales, this informs the people who reach out to her to do collaborations with her. I think she just messaged me, it was either 3 or 5 clients she booked in a week, but it was one of those things where it's like, oh my gosh, this is wild. And the number of signups she's getting for conversion events have just gone through the roof. And so much of it is, I mean, I would say, obviously there's mindset, like there's other pieces here, but this is the nucleus place we change. Alyssa says, yay, so relevant. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that this is relevant. Okay, so let's go on to the next piece here, because otherwise y'all know, I'll just chat for 90 minutes instead of an hour. And the noise outside stopped. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that we can have a little bit of peace and quiet. I'm frozen again, so I'm just assuming you can still hear me. So the next piece I'm looking at with clients after we look at the need to have versus the nice to have is updating the delivery of their offer. And I'm going to explain this a little bit and how this affects your bottom line, how this helps you to sell your offer out. So there's a couple different components from this. So What I would say here, and I do not want to sound like I'm hating on our industry because I love our industry so much. I really do. And I think most of our industry is brilliant. And I think it's sort of like the broken record that I'm on, where it's like we're just past the day of slapping together offers. I think what happened in 2020 is everyone came online and there was such a demand and there was such a need for so much and everybody was at home. And so I do think many of us slapped together offers and programs because that was what was right for the situation and for the time, right? That was the correct response to what was going on in our industry in 2020. Hopefully that's tracking. And because of this, look, I created a 6-week sales course in that time. And I mean, I put that together. So I think it's a great program, but I put that together so quickly. But part of it was people need this right now. Everybody's online. Everybody's freaking out. Also, I'm at home, so I've got the time to do this because I'm on lockdown in New York City, right? So there just was a very different climate. I think what we're seeing today is many business owners are still operating as if that's the climate. And what's happening is offers are getting slapped together. And when I say slapped together, again, there is a time for that where that can be serving. But when we look at the companies, the businesses that are continuing to do well and that are making a lot of money, but also a lot of impact, right? Where they're making money because their people are getting great results from their offers. It's tough to be a Marie Forleo or an Amy Porterfield, like them or not. They've each made, I think, over $50 million in their business. It's tough to do that if there isn't some part of what you're doing that's an offer that people need to have, and that's an offer that is being delivered really well, right? Like, it's just like people are going to kind of figure out that you're full of shit at a certain point. And I think we're seeing that. I think there are, unfortunately, people in our space who are really getting called out because they're still in the mode of let's just throw together a new master class that we charge $1,000 for, whatever it is, every month, and just like churn and burn through clients and through people. And so what I'm really talking about with clients right now, I think this is just something, again, not to make yourself wrong. Like, again, I created a 6-week sales course in no time at all. We're just not charging $2,000 for it. So I think that's the big difference there. But this isn't to like make anyone wrong. I think it's just to see where we have a different temperature in our space. We have something different to address. And I think we're also now out of what was a once in a 100-year circumstance with a global pandemic, right? I don't think this is going to happen. I mean, who knows? We'll knock on wood here for another 100 years, in which case that was like a very outlier circumstance in business. The rest of the time in business, we're really looking at playing the long game and how can we create offers that are really intentional and that are really well thought out and that are really meant to give people a great experience, help them, that is something they need to have, that's going to help them solve their problems, that's going to help them get really great results. And so I'm encouraging a lot of my clients to slow down instead of just being in this mentality of like, how do I just quickly throw something together to make some money? It's like, yeah, I think we need to be a little less concerned about how do we slap this together and how do we sell this next, and a little bit more concerned about what is the delivery of the offer itself. And delivery meaning like literally how are you showing up to deliver it, but also let's say you have a course or a program, right? How can we just be a little bit more intentional about creating something that's really meeting that need that is a need to have? How can we be really thoughtful about creating something without getting into perfectionism and never getting anything done, but about making sure this is addressing what your audience most needs, and that we are building this the right way and versus the quick way to try to make a buck today. And I promise you, even if that means a little bit of slow down up front, that is what will make you money long term, and that is what will help you to sell out your offers. It's so much easier to get behind an offer when you know it's excellent and to sell it and to communicate that and for people to believe you than to try to sell something that you're not even really sure what's in it or that you've just slapped together. You're like, yeah, like here's this thing, and like you're just trying to like shuck and jive. It's actually much more challenging to sell that. But long term, I'm just going to keep using Marie Forleo and Amy Porterfield as an example because I just think they're pretty well known. If we take a look at their offers, Marie Forleo, she's had what? B school for like 20 years, is that right? I think. And she has had the Copy Cure for, I don't know, what, 8 years, something like that. She could easily, with the audience she has, she could easily, with the marketing, with her skill set, pull out 100 different offers, right? She could pull out all of these different things and keep creating new things. There is a reason that she has 2 offers and that she hasn't created more. Part of it is, I think it just makes it easier to market and sell, and she's a smart businesswoman. But part of it is that's how you can keep refining the deliverability of your offer. I know she's re-recorded the videos on that. I think Denise Duffield Thomas is another good example with Lucky Bitch, the B-School. Like, she re-recorded all her videos at one point. I know just from the snippets of their marketing that I see, and just from what I hear from people who've been in their programs, right? Amy Porterfield, I think, is someone who's always looking at, how are we improving the customer service? How are we improving people's experience within the program? Do we need more support coaches? How do we make sure people are actually watching the videos? What isn't landing that we need to re-record or to reteach, right? That's thinking about the deliverability. And I think just unfortunately, we're just in a time where we've just gotten things twisted a little bit. And I think part of it is the backlash from 2020 and just being in such a response or reactive mode. And I think the other part of it is almost being focused on just what can I sell and how can I make money? Instead of realizing what you can sell and how you can make money, is coming back to basics and spending a little bit more time thinking about the deliverability of your offer and what's actually inside your offer itself. Just seeing here. Okay, no questions. Let me know if you have questions there. Let me just see, because I'm checking time. I have so many things I want to say here. I would say here, things I would be thinking about. So I was talking about this with one of my clients, and we were looking at, I think these are just a couple easy places to look at. So one, I think, is just literally the deliverability, the customer service itself. Customer service in terms of, yes, how you're selling something, but also how you're showing up in the container, and looking at what is the client experience through your offer. One is the need to have, right? The focus of the container itself. This is something I've been coaching one-on-one for 8 years, right? It'd be so easy for me to be I don't need to touch anything. Everything is great in my business. I'm always thinking about how can I improve the deliverability of my coaching, and not from an obsessive place or I don't think I'm a great coach place, but I'm always just wanting to be curious about what are my people needing right now? Is there a new tool or resource that I need to make for my clients? Is there something that needs to adjust in the container? If you even look at the intensive I offered, that I've been offering intensives for years, but even that, right, that is a different deliverability. That is a different, I updated that offer. I refined that offer to just more specifically meet the needs I'm seeing are really current. I think that's one example. If you're a course creator, if you're a program creator, right, this might mean, as annoying as it is, updating your videos, re-recording something, looking at, where when people take your program, where are they stopping off and not consuming more of the program. Of course, some of that is just normal for a course or a membership. I think that's always going to be a percentage of people, but is there an opportunity to include another training? Is there an opportunity to include something that encourages people to get more out of your program? These are all things I would be thinking about, where it's how can we take what's already good and make it really great, and how can we look at the way we're delivering our offer, right? So not just the way we're packaging it and telling people that, but literally the delivery of our offer to continue to improve it. With the customer service piece, maybe this is actually a good example. I just finished the book Small Giants. I don't know if anyone's read that. It's excellent. And I got the recommendation from the book Small Giants from there's a store down the street. So I feel like I shared this on the podcast or somewhere, but I am obsessed with spin, and I'm quite an intense spinner. I have busted through 2 pairs of spin shoes while literally sprinting on the bike. I've split the shoe from the clip inside of the shoe once, and then a couple weeks ago I was spinning so fast that this sounds ridiculous, but I pulled the clip out. So once I split the shoe in half, and once I pulled the clip out. So there's a specialty bike shop down the street here from me, and they are a Small Giant of a company, and they've been in business for 20 years. I think I shared this on the podcast, and they are appointment only. And this is the example what I want to say. They're not just looking at how can we quickly churn and burn through clients. They've been in business for 20 years. That means they survived COVID in New York City, which a lot of small businesses did not, especially like a bike shop or a business that is, just the rent around here alone is a lot to keep up. So they're appointment only, and they have just so thought about the delivery of their offer and of their service. So it's just easy to think like, oh, we just sell spin shoes or bikes, right? Like we don't need to think that much about it, but they've just gotten this so down to a science. It's so fascinating. Like this is one of the reasons I think they're in business 20 years later and why I can't shut up about them. So it's appointment only. So I had to go make an appointment, show up there, talk about the offer they have created. It's like they took the time with me one-on-one to figure out my needs, to get really clear on what I wanted. So they then found the right pair of shoes for me. They didn't give me any options. They gave me one pair of shoes. They're like, this is the pair of shoes you need. They were able to have me try them on, to have me test them on a bike, to have me understand why, because it's like a titanium made shoe. It's like not gonna bust. It's got like all these fancy things. It's like the most amount of money I've ever spent on a pair of workout equipment ever. But this is how you sell out your offers, right? I think most of us would think like, oh, like all of that just to sell up like one item of like, that just seems like so much work. But they have just so honed the deliverability of their offer. This is a pair of shoes that's 4 times the price of another pair of shoes. And I gotta tell you, it didn't matter like what the price point was, even if I didn't have the money, because of their deliverability of their offer, because of what everything they went through there. I was just so sold. And I will tell you this, if I had gone into another store and someone had put me in those same shoes and told me the price point, no part of me would have spent money on them, and I would have looked for a pair that's half the price that I would have in my head said was just as good, because not that I have the money, it's not that part, it just to me would have seemed absurd. But because of the way they delivered their offer and the experience they brought me through and the way they helped me to understand everything, it was a no-brainer. And so I had some sticker shock. I was like, well, but this totally makes sense. And I can see like how this is gonna help my knee pain and how I'm gonna stop busting through shoes every couple of months. And so that's what I'm talking about with deliverability and customer service. I think we just sometimes forget about what a difference this makes. Now, this doesn't mean everybody has to be one-on-one only or by appointment only, but this is clearly a company that has put some thought into not just how do we sell as many units as possible, but what is the offer we have? What is the deliverability of our offer? How can we step that up, right? Where do we lose people in this process? If we sell these shoes that are like, now I'm sold on them, and I would tell everybody spinning to spend this much money on them, like they've just in a couple of weeks helped me just in terms of some of my alignment on the bike and not to get injured and all of that stuff, right? Like they're thinking about like where people not like through our offer having challenges, having friction points. How can we improve the deliverability? How can we improve the client and customer experience? How can we over deliver? And I think that's one of the reasons they've been in business for 20 years. They were telling me how they've had clients that have been with them for like however many decades, like 10, not decades, but 10 years plus, right? That is part of the reason their offer continues to sell out when other companies in New York City, I mean, it's really sad, like post-COVID, like just how many empty spaces there are. That's one of the reasons I believe they haven't. Now, here's the other thing they did, and I think this is just something for all of us to think about with the offer deliverability piece. They just over-delivered in such a beautiful way. This is like the customer service piece. So I had mentioned the spin shoes is more information than you need, but I think it's a good example. You have a clip that goes to the shoe that you put into your bike so you're stable. And so they didn't have the right clip for me. They had one that was like a used clip. They're like, we're gonna put this on your shoe so you can have your class. We're gonna order a new pair. It'll come in a week. So they did that. I came back a week later. They followed up, right? They reached out personally to me and they were asking me how the shoes were working. Like they're great, except for I just keep getting like the chafing. I'm like getting blisters a little because I think I just need to find some new socks. So I leave this appointment, like they put the new clip on for me, didn't charge me for that. It's not like it's not like I bought all their biking stuff. I was already super pleased. By the time I got home, I opened my phone. I had 2 text messages from the owner who had looked up the right kind of socks for me that would help prevent the chafing and send me the links to them. It's not like they made money on that, right? That's just that going above and beyond and that deliverability and that looking at your offer and that client service. That is how you not only sell out offers, right? They sell out their offers because they are doing something very different than everyone else. But this is also how you get people who are not only not going to have a refund, but are going to be repeat clients. That's how they've had clients for 10 years. And something I teach my clients that I will tell you is it costs you so much more time and literal money in your business to acquire a new client than it does to keep an existing client. And I think what are like the fall off of 2020 and kind of this like churn and burn through offers and not really thinking that through and not thinking through the deliverability and the customer service. I think people have forgotten this. And I think what's happening in 2024, yes, we have, it's saturated in the economy and all of that. But I think part of what's also happening is people are starting to have to catch up with, oh, I wasn't focused on client retention or having repeat clients or the deliverability piece that leads into that, or even offers that I deliver so well so that if I have a completely different offer, someone wants to move into that because they've just had such a great experience. I think that hasn't been as much of the focus, right? We've just seen so many of this like churning and burning through offers where the deliverability isn't the focus. And so I think what a lot of people are facing right now is I now have to go and create all new clientele. I have to go and create all new customers. And that is a timely and expensive business venture. So not only can you sell your offers out more easily when you're focused on deliverability and client and customer service, but this is also how you save time and money. Like this is how you stay fully booked. I've definitely said this, right? I think I have great marketing. I think we're great at sales, right? I can bring in new clients. We booked, what was it, like 5 new clients in 3 days. I've had an 88K sales month from one-on-one. Like we know how to do that. And the like air quote secret to my success, how I've made almost 1.4 million in the past 5-ish years in business, is mostly because I'm also great at the deliverability. And so I have a very high retention rate and repeat client rate. Like that is the truth. I would not be as profitable as I am if that weren't the case, because I would have to spend a lot more time, money, team energy, maybe ads, right, on bringing in new people. And it also is just a more timely thing. So not that I don't love new clients, and don't hear that conversation, but I think that's something we just as business owners owe ourselves to think more about. I think it's great for our clients, right? They have a better experience, but it's also great for you. That is how you have a more profitable business, a more sustainable business. Laura says, I love the sock service, so beautiful. Sorry, how did I miss these? NJ says, I just was like off on a tangent. NJ says, so agree, so much focus on selling instead of delivering. And of course, y'all, I talk about, like, NJ, you know this too, like, I talk about how important sales is all the time. Like, I'm always selling. I probably dropped the name of my intensive, like, 3 times already in this live stream, right? Sales are so important. So I don't want anyone to hear that, obviously, and bringing in new clients, right? We always want to bring in new leads and new clients and all of that. But the deliverability piece is why someone is paying us. And so, and Jada, so appreciate you saying that. Like, I think that's the thing I'm always thinking about. Like, my job first and foremost is to my clients who are paying me money, and to show up there 110% for their investment, and to deliver, and ideally over deliver if I can, because that is why my business exists, right? Everything else is to support that. And I think we just have it backward. I appreciate you saying that. And then Laura says, yes, I've been preaching client retention for so long. And in my corporate career, it was employee retention. It's so important and sustainable, but it's also the right thing to do. 1,000%. I so appreciate you saying that. I just was having a call this morning with someone about the employee retention piece. And I think as a corporate space, just to put a pin on what you're saying, Laura, for a corporation, in many ways, employees are their clients as much as the actual clients or customers. And so I think it's such a it's so the same concept and same idea, and it is sort of the whole thing when it comes to profitability, sustainability, even scalability. And yes, it also just happens to be the right thing to do if people are paying us money, or if you're paying people money, in my opinion. So glad that part is landing. I was gonna share because y'all are on the same page with me. I think just some simple things to think about. I think we hear going above and beyond, or the service, like with the spin shoes example. I think sometimes if I say that, I think people hear burnout, or I think they hear not having boundaries, or I think it's easy to think like, oh my gosh, I'm already like doing so much, like, and now I'm supposed to do more. And so I want to offer here that going above and beyond and thinking about delivery, I would think about this in terms of do less better. This isn't about like, now how do you put more onto a plate? This isn't about not having boundaries. This isn't about giving away things for free that make sense for you to charge for. I spent 10 years waiting tables, right? Like, I think about this in terms of like, what's just like the easy thing that I was probably going to do already that I could do to surprise and delight, or to have like allow someone to have an amazing experience. Like, sometimes it's simply like finding the candle in the back of the restaurant to put in someone's burger because we don't have dessert because I overheard them saying it was so-and-so's birthday, right? That's a silly example, but right, so I think we have to remember this doesn't always have to be this, like the socks, right? That took them probably 2 minutes. and they don't have to do that for everyone. It was such a small act. It didn't cost them any money. It wasn't labor intensive, but it went such a long way to build my loyalty. I have now, at my spin class, I've told at least 5 people about this shop, because I have a community there, and they know that I bust through my shoes. And someone else was looking for new shoes. So I probably sent them thousands of dollars of business, and for all of the reasons we're talking about. But I think just that was a 2-minute thing that they did. And so I think just remember that when we talk about going above and beyond, or surprising and delighting, or over delivering, this is not something that has to cost you a lot of money, a lot of time. This does not mean burnout. It's just noticing where can you do those things where it's just most places just would never ever do that. I don't know if anybody watched The Bear, the TV show The Bear. I don't think I'm just ruining this isn't a spoiler alert, but I think it's whatever the most recent season is. What's his name? Richie he's doing a training at a really high-end restaurant. It's modeled after a real restaurant, and some of the things that they do, they go a little bit above and beyond, but I think in one scene, it's someone's birthday and they really want a special kind of pizza, and they go and order it and surprise them, but they do something really special with it in the back, and it's the best experience this person has ever had. But the mindset of the restaurant is really, how do we just give people an experience that is just so not what they expect, and that is no one else would ever bother to do that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be this crazy effort. I think some of the examples in The Bear are a little over the top, but I think that's more of what we're thinking about, what we're talking about here. And so I just think having this even top of mind, where it's how can I focus on deliverability or delivery, and how can I focus on going above and beyond without burning out, that can go a huge way. I'll use myself as an example. This is such a minor thing, but for long-term clients of mine, right, I have a certain turnaround with content reviews. If I have a policy, if sessions are rescheduled within 24 hours, you forfeit them. And so one of the easy things for me is when I'm able to, I will review something for someone that's maybe that I usually wouldn't, or that would be more content that I usually include in my content reviews, or if I'm able to do it sooner than I usually would. These are all things that I wouldn't do if they didn't feel good to me, but it feels so good when I'm able to go above and beyond. That really supports my clients. Just if I have someone who, one of my clients was sick, right? And she had to miss a session. I could just hold to my policy, but this was a place where I just want to go, above and beyond, or maybe this is just being human, where I'm just going to waive that policy for them. And so I think just remembering these don't always have to be things that are crazy and out there, but those little things can go such a long way. And generally I feel if they feel good to me as a business owner to do, they're going to feel good on the other side. Some of the other things with deliverability, I'll just give 2 other quick examples of what I've been, and then I want to read this comment, what I've been supporting clients with, and just so you can see how simple these are. So with deliverability, some of what we have looked at back is just going back to basics of what is literally in your offer. Can we clearly define what you are delivering? So this is more the communication aspect. I've had a couple of clients who are putting out different coaching packages for, I just want to be vague, so we're just protecting the confidentiality of everyone, so you don't know who it is. But one of the things we were looking at is they have solid offers that are selling, but what they are specifically delivering is not very clear, and that's what we've been working on. So that's one thing I might look at. For a couple of clients, we're looking more at the actual delivery in terms of the material inside their program that needs to be refined. For another client, what we were looking at is the onboarding process. So I consider this part of the delivery. There wasn't an onboarding process, and there was just such an opportunity to make that experience so much better for their people. For quite a few clients, I think this is just a really easy thing for pretty much anyone who's in a service-based business. We've looked at creating some sort of material for clients that is a welcome material that really helps them to understand how to get the most out of their program. So whether you have a course or a one-on-one program or a mastermind, this is I think it's just a really easy thing to do in terms of deliverability that really supports someone. Because we have to remember, people come into programs, especially people who have been in multiple programs, it's I think we all think you know how my program works, and it's your program is very different than someone else's program that's very different than someone else's program. So I think that can go a long way for the client experience and for someone for the deliverability, but also for someone to quite literally get the most out of your program if you spell out this is how to do so. And I find for those of you who have programs that are more like module based or material based, that can go a long way as well, because that is something where I think one of the concerns with deliverability is people falling off and not finishing the material. So those are just some examples there, if that's helpful for you to even be thinking about what you might want to look at there, and to see these aren't crazy things, but so many people aren't doing that. And this is how it makes it so much easier to sell out your offers and to have that retention or people who want to renew into other programs. Laura says, I've also been a client of someone who was so focused on new business that I felt like I was not the focus, even though I was a paying client. And they were trying so hard, but it's just important to say that clients can really feel it. Oh, yeah, I think that is so unfortunate. I'm sorry that was your experience. I think that's so unfortunate, and I have had that experience as well, and I'm trying to think of how I want to frame this. I think what's really unfortunate is for when that is the case, and I think this is just a good cautionary tale for everyone in terms of capacity as well. It is really something you feel on the other side, and what I've seen, I've been on the receiving end of this, where things also can get dropped really quickly, or communication can be severed, and that can also end relationships with the people you've hired or people who hire you. And I think then it's really easy to think it's for one of these other reasons, when sometimes it's just because someone's so focused on everything over here instead of the reason someone has paid them. And I think that's just something we all want to be mindful of. One of my clients, and I think this is actually helpful in the deliverability piece, or even with the need to have, nice to have, but I think more in the deliverability piece here. One of my clients who has scaled to quite high multi-six figures, so I think around the 700K mark, a lot of the work we've done, and we talked about this in 20K Months Multiplied as well, the masterclass around capacity, a lot of the work we have done has actually been killing some of their offers and streamlining and putting up more boundaries to not sell as much, because of exactly what Laura is talking about. Because I'm such an annoying broken record to this client, because this is someone who's really good at what they do. They do not have a problem selling or bringing in leads, and there's quite a high demand, and they're very entrepreneurial, so they always have a new idea or a new way that they could sell something like that. That is not their challenge at all, and I'm almost always the annoying, in a good way, coach on the other side, where I'm like, if you do that, you're lighting this part of your business on fire. You are very much risking this in the future of your business, because you have a capacity problem, not how do we bring in clients problem. And so if we add on more and more and more, and we're focused on that, you're going to start suffering, your deliverability will suffer, and your deliverability and your excellent client relationships and retention, because this is someone who has excellent retention, that will suffer. And you might not feel it now, but you're going to feel it it might not even be for a year, right? But this is something that your business will end up feeling. And then it will be also tricky to figure out why, because oftentimes this is the kind of thing you don't feel right at the start, right? It happens down the road. And then it's sort of it's very easy in our brains when something happens in our business to think it's whatever is going on currently. But usually whatever is going on in our business is the result of a decision, a change, or something we didn't show up for that started 90 days, 180 days, a year, 2 years, right? That happened previously that is now catching up to us, just like positive results, right? When I I had an 88K sales month, right? That's not because of what I did that month. It's because of what I did that month that compounded and stacked upon what I probably had been doing for the last year or something like that. So I think that's on both cases. So Laura, I really appreciate you saying that, because I think that's such a big piece with what we're talking about, the deliverability side here. I'm actually very, very glad you said that, because that feels very important. Okay, I'm gonna give us, because we're gonna hit time. I do have a couple extra minutes today, but I don't want to keep you all forever. The third piece here, that tying these together, that I'm supporting clients with so that they can so that they can sell out their offers right now, is updating the wrapping paper of their offers. So this is more of what I'm doing in Your Marketing Multiplied, in the strategy intensive with clients. And even if you want to book the free Content Lab strategy session, something we can take a look at that I think shows up in your content is the wrapping paper, is the positioning, is the messaging, is the marketing strategy, is how you're getting visible, is how you're communicating this to bring in and to sell your offer in the first place. But we're updating this wrapping paper. And when I say updating wrapping paper, I mean sometimes we're taking offers, it's like we've taken a look at what's inside the offer, how do we make it a need to have instead of a nice to have, and then maybe we're taking a look at the deliverability piece. And then for some of my clients, their offer, we're taking something that is already pretty solid, we're adjusting a few of those pieces, and then the wrapping paper really are those pieces. But it might mean pivoting the name, right? It might mean we're repositioning how we're speaking about what's included or what the benefits of the offer are, right? This is what we're going to do to help it to sell better. But I think what gets us sometimes when you're struggling to sell an offer, I think what happens is people start here and we forget that, just like the horrible saying, you can't put lipstick on a pig, but you can't put lipstick on a pig and it's still going to be a pig at the end of the day. I think pigs are actually kind of cute, but we get what that saying is. And so here, I don't want to just have you update and put shiny marketing on an offer that is not going to be a need to have, or on an offer that once people get inside, right, maybe you're going to make some quick sales, but everybody's going to ask for a refund. You're going to have a ton of dissatisfied clients. No one's going to stick around. No one's going to renew, right? If that's the case, that it doesn't matter how shiny the lipstick is, how shiny the messaging, how shiny the marketing is, that doesn't serve you long term. It might make you a quick buck, but marketing will do the heavy lifting for you, like we were talking at the beginning of this live stream. If you have great content marketing, your content's probably great and valuable, but in terms of content that's actually marketing and working right now, if you have great messaging, if you have great positioning, right, all of that will make your sales so much easier and do the heavy lifting for you, so you can be a bit more lean back, so you can do more to just see, is this the right fit for someone? Can I help answer any questions? Can I help them understand specifically how this offer will meet their needs? But marketing can't do that for you and like take away the need for a heavy sales pitch if there isn't a great offer to communicate with someone, if you don't know, if it's not actually meeting someone's needs, right? I think this is maybe almost overly obvious, but I think we just have it backwards sometimes. And what I'll sometimes see is someone books an intensive or books a session with me and they're so focused on like, how do I grow on Instagram, or how do I grow my Facebook group, or whatever that thing is. And like, look, that is important also, but none of that matters if what we're taking someone to isn't something that someone wants to buy, which is why I want to first get clear on how do we make sure we have something someone actually wants to buy, and then how do we put the fun wrapping paper around it, right? If I give you a gift for Christmas, it does not matter how beautiful the bow is or how beautiful, like all the like things I put around. If I put like a pretty little twig and I don't know, whatever people do with wrapping, if what's inside is a lump of coal, I don't know why we're going Christmas examples, but that's what we're doing. Like that's not going to matter. But if in some ways, if you just have like the thing I have been wanting to have my eye on for the last year and you wrap it in a burlap sack, I'm not going to give two F's about the wrapping paper because I want what's inside of that, right? So we want to start there. And then let's be honest, if there's a Christmas tree, even though it's not Christmas and it's like March here, with a ton of gifts, if I'm just like looking at that, like which one do I want to open first? I'm probably going to go for the one with the really pretty wrapping paper. And so that is something I'm absolutely supporting clients with. I do think it is, and this is not to freak everyone out. I keep saying, I don't think a crowded marketplace is bad. I think that means there's also more people and more people trusting spending their money in the online space and in industries. I think I've said this so many times, like coaching, people like looked at you 10 years ago, like you had 7 heads when you said you were a life coach. And it was a whole thing just to have someone who was a stranger on the internet, like pay you thousands of dollars for life coaching. And today it's like everybody and their brother and sister has a life coach and is doing something online. So saturation doesn't have to all be bad. I think there's trade-offs on either side. There's pros and cons on either side, right? It is saturated. The positive is there are more people buying and they trust spending money in the online space. And people are buying. We've had some of the best months in my business. My clients are having great months. So I want everybody to hear that. Just because it's saturated does not mean people are not investing or spending money. But I do think when it's more saturated, if we don't have just one gift under the Christmas tree and we have lots of gifts, how do we put some great wrapping paper now that we've gotten your offer to be a need to have and your offer is really drilled in and you are delivering an excellent service? How do we get that wrapping paper working for you? Because if that wrapping paper is spot on and appealing to your person, right, that's the gift they're going to want to pluck out among the many, many options that they have right now. So yes, that is still important. And some of this for clients, if this is helpful to hear, when I'm thinking about your offer, I'm thinking about your paid and your free offers. And so using myself as an example, I announced a new free offer to you, my content strategy, or my content lab strategy session. I can't even remember the name, it's so new. I've been offering free coaching sessions for years, but I've gotten really clear on what that offer is. Or I'm not to say I'm offering you a free coaching session. I've gotten really clear on why that's a need to have. I honestly think there is not a single business owner right now who doesn't need that. And I mean, look, this is what I'm asking my coach for support with. Things have just changed online. I am going to sell it that strongly. I just think everybody needs support with their content strategy. Not saying your content isn't valuable, but there's a very big difference between valuable content and good writing and things that are like said really well, and a content strategy that is marketing for you to get noticed and to get you paid in 2024. And I think pretty much every business owner needs support with that right now. And this is ongoing, evolving work, right? This is a need to have, in my opinion. So I just want you to see this, right? It's a need to have. It's very clear. It's very specific. It's not just like join me for a free coaching call. I mean, deliverability. You'll see when you book a call with me. But I think I over deliver it. I think I think I give a very great service. But then the updated wrapping paper, and I just want you to see, right? All of that. Like I've been offering I have so many different free coaching sessions we offer. But I want you to see, like, this is a piece, like, this is me walking my talk. One of the ways this offer, I mean, it's a free offer, I know, so it's like easy to say it'll sell out, but even your marketing multiplied strategy intensive, we sold like 5 of those in 3 days. I've been selling intensives for years. The reason these are selling well is their need to have, right? The deliverability is on point, and I over deliver all of what we're talking about. But the wrapping paper has been very specifically updated on both of those, right? I have put some new wrapping paper around them so that they're very appealing presently to you, to my people, because I know this is what people need right now. This is what they need the most support around. And so that's what I want you to be thinking about. You might be taking something that's free, right? You might be taking something that's paid. You might be taking something you have been doing for years, right? You don't have to like reinvent the whole wheel. But if you're finding you're not selling as much as you want, this might be the really easy place to look at. How can you update that wrapping paper, which is what we're doing inside of your marketing multiply the strategy intensive. It is looking at how do you position and message your offer, how do you market it in a way that people get why your offer of all of the offers under the Christmas tree is the one that they want to buy, that's the thing they need to have, so that when people land on your sales page, when people get on a sales call with you, you are the only option. They're like, I just need to talk through these details and I want to hire you. So I will drop a link, walking my talk here for you. I will drop a link for the Your Marketing Strategy Intensive. I will also drop a link for my free content lab strategy session. If you're like, yes, I probably need the intensive, like I would just like to connect with you first. And it would be really helpful for me anyway to take a look and update my strategy and really to understand how to take good content, but to turn it into the marketing that's working right now to stand out, to connect with my people, to bring in clients. Take me up on that free session. That's exactly what we'll be focusing on. And I hope mirroring that for you also helps you to see what I'm talking about in terms of updating the wrapping paper there. Laura says, you absolutely over deliver. I love you. I love you so much. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. You know what? I'm gonna say, I don't know if I should say this, Laura, but I'm going to say it because I think it's coming up. I'm talking about transparency and strategic vulnerability. So this is a little vulnerable, Laura, but I'm just going to say this. I think this will actually be helpful for everyone to hear and have modeled. So Laura is so kind to say, and Laura says, love this new offer. Such a great highlight of your magic. Highly recommend. Thank you for saying that. I've been coaching for 10 years, y'all, and I've been in business for 8, and I think I have really started to learn, like, these are my zones of genius. I do think this is my zone of genius. But Laura, when you said the part about you worked with someone who was focused on, they were like trying so hard to bring a new business, and I'm sharing this with everyone because I think it's helpful just to hear, no matter how much success you have, no matter how great you are at what you do, and like you know that you're great at what you do, our brains can be crazy. My brain had a moment where I was like, has that ever been me? Did I do that? It's just really funny to like notice what the brain does. And I was able, obviously, like to do the mindset work and to catch myself and be like, no, you always over deliver. Like that's never been a thing. You've also been fully booked for a while, so that hasn't been a concern. But I wanted to share this vulnerably with y'all as a closing thought. I thought about sharing it and I wasn't sure, but with what Laura just said, it came up because I also want to model, demonstrate for everyone here. I think sometimes we hear all of this, and I think it can almost be easy to hear someone talk about like being fully booked for a while or whatever the things are, and to think that the way to that is to suddenly stop having the human experience, or that your brain is never going to do its brain thing, or that you're never going to have a thought pop up, or that, you know, I've been going live every week for gazillion years. I'm like a dinosaur in the online space, and that you never have moments where you're like, oh, like an insecurity moment or a question mark or a doubt or a fear or something like that. And I think that's just so blatantly not true. I think all of us will forever be humans having a human experience, running businesses with other humans having human experiences. And what I'm always talking with my clients about, and that I just really ascribe to, and the work I've done with therapy and with coaching myself, is we just got better and better at catching our brains being kind of insane. And I say that lovingly to my brain, but our brains just spew lies all day long. That is what they do, right? And I know where that comes from. Like, this is old trash. It's very easy for me to be like, that's just my trauma talking, or that's just, you know, my fear talking, whatever that is, right? So I can like catch it and self shift or self correct, and probably no one else would notice. It's like 4 seconds for me. But 5 years ago, something like that, it probably would have spun out for a little while in my own mind. And so I just want to normalize that for everyone, both like the growth process with that, and also not what our live stream is about today, but because we talk about mindset work so much, like that's where I see the power of mindset work and learning how to manage your mind come in. It's not like these thoughts never come up, or that never happens, or we never have a moment like that. So maybe TMI, but I'm hoping for someone that'll be normalizing to hear, and just to hear like this is the thing for every business owner ever. Laura says our brains just spew lies all day long, laughing. It's just so true. One of my clients, I joke, I was like, basically 95% of what your brain says, you just have to give it the finger. Like, it's just lying to you. Our brains can't help it. That's what they do. And she says, yes, so normalizing and validating a human. And I'm glad it feels that way. So I love you all. Don't forget, in this process, this is an evolution, a journey for all of us. You are a human. Your people that you're serving are human. We are all just humans having humans. So be easy on you. Be easy on your people. Give yourself some grace. This is just something we are all evolving, refining, getting better at every day. And that is what I hope for all of you. That's the best we can all do. I love you all. I will be back next Wednesday. Pay attention on Monday to the podcast. Big news for y'all. Bye.